Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anonymous No More. My name is Angela, and I have a beautiful guest with me and a great friend, Rebecca Kirson, joining me today. Rebecca, if you would like to take a moment to kind of really introduce yourself to the group and community.
Hello, I'm introducing myself and my kitty. So if you see her, she loves to be a part of the action. My name is Rebecca Kirson. I'm a transformational coach, and I also use the intuitive tool of the Akashic Records. And that, just really allows me to help people figure out what their soul's agenda is for this lifetime, and to really look at the places where they're playing small, they're hiding their light, and to shift that so they can align with their divine self-expression. Because when we align with our divine self-expression, we can feel more fully alive, deeply connected, and really create a life that truly matters. And that's what we're here to do. We are here to step into a life of fulfillment. So if we're not living that, then that's time for us to go deeper, really excavate what's going on in the inner, so that we can shift that and bring that transformation to what we're creating in the exterior parts of our lives. So very happy to be here. Angela's amazing, so very happy that she created this container of Anonymous No More, because I know a lot of us do hold ourselves back, and we can be shy, or we can have learned when we were growing up that we don't want to outshine others. I know that was very much a part of my journey. So it's really helpful to have a space where these people are safe. I can really show up. I can be witnessed. I can be seen, because our creative energy, it wants to be witnessed. We like to watch sunsets. We like to look at beautiful things, and we're a part of that creative energy. So it's helpful when we have people in our lives who can really see us for who we are. And I think that's really a big part of why Angela's created this space, is so that she can, one, hold the container for others to be witnessed, but to also be witnessed in her beauty. So thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to make it in. So you spoke about a little bit on your own journey, with struggling to kind of be yourself or show people who you were. But we also, as we grow older and we learn, beliefs and old conditionings, we learn to actually conform to our environment. What are your thoughts on those types of things, learning to actually be a part of the conformity, so to speak, that is our environment and our
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about conformity, because I literally, I was laughing about this the other day. I was like, if I look at the anatomy of my life, which I frequently do, it's all a divine setup. Like, I just have to laugh because there's so much humor embedded in it. Because even if I look at my astrology, I have these planets like Uranus and Pluto, which are all about being different and being weird, in the house of how I make money. So it's like, even though I wanted to go to grad school and I wanted to try the traditional route and, work in a corporate environment or work for a small business, it just got to the point where it was like, oh my God, I cannot work for other people. And I can't do 3D type positions because it's just so not who I am. And so that happened in my 20s and late 20s, early 30s. I was just like, I so much want to fit in, but that's just not the journey for me. That's the divine setup. It's like, stop struggling against that I'm not here to do what the crowd's doing. I'm never going to be able to do what the crowd's doing, because that's just not my cosmic plan. That's not my sacred contracts. I'm going to do something that people probably have never heard of, that only a small percentage of, the population who is working on their personal or spiritual development is even going to be drawn to. But that's okay, because we all have a piece of the puzzle. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, we all want to be witnessed. And a lot of us have lives where we can't be witnessed by our family. My parents have no idea what I do for a living. Okay. They think I'm a teacher and a coach, which, yeah, that's a part of it. That's not the totality of it. So I'm not probably ever going to be seen in my entirety by my family. And that's okay. I don't go to them to get my cup filled, right? I believe in creating my own family of sisters and people that I choose to have in my life. But you know, we are all imprinted and kind of broken down by society to fit in, to be in a box. And that's just, I don't know, it's so hard for a lot of us because we don't fit in a box. I remember creating a Hotmail account back when we used to use those. I don't know how many years ago that was. And it was Free My Life, because that's where I was at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot stay in this situation I've created for myself. I have to free my life. I have to do things differently. And I have to move through enough of the fear to feel okay with that. Because I want nothing more than to just be me and to have that be okay, right? And people don't have to love every aspect of what I do, and I don't shove it down people's throats. I try to choose environments where it's okay, you know, to share what I do, and if people are interested in that, that's awesome. But I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit down and talk to you about makeup and, you know, the best places to go buy shoes and very superficial things, because that's just not how I roll. And so it's just me knowing myself and knowing I could never be fulfilled in putting myself in a scenario where that's the totality of it. I was telling you earlier, I went to a networking event today, and it was a lot of lawyers and real estate agents and house stagers and people selling insurance, and those are all beautiful people doing amazing things in the world, you know. And then there's Rebecca, and I stand up and share what I do, and they're just looking at me like, what? You know, so that's okay. You know, it's sometimes we have to step in and just kind of try that on. I had no idea who would be there and what it would be like, and I was invited by a woman that I met at another networking event. So that's all part of the journey. But I'm secure and stable enough in myself to just know that you know, I'm not here to conform. I'm not here.
Okay, I know myself, and I think I spoke on this in the last video or segment that I did. I had gone to a meeting where everybody had some time to share, you know, what they did and who they were, and I can feel like the energy in my environment and just surrounding me change with the energy that I pick up on in the room. Like here speaking with you, obviously we have a connection and a relationship, so I feel more comfortable talking to you. And also, like, in a room full of women who are very much like-minded, it's a little bit easier for me to share about who I am and what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are in different environments, like you were, you know, at your networking meeting, how do you not conform and kind of put yourself in a box to fit in? I struggle with that. I get actually a little anxious.
Right. And I can, and I have, if my goal is to fit in. But as soon as you step out of that and you just observe what is happening, and you go into the observer of yourself, of others, and I really try to connect in with that higher part of myself, my divine nature, that knows I didn't come here to fit in. Like, that's not my path. That's not my soul's agenda. And so because it's not a part of an expectation for me, I can just let the human side of me know it's okay. Like, you don't have to fit in, right? You're not in high school anymore, which I didn't fit in either, but let that go. And I can just really kind of pause and and soften even just a small amount, which I did today. And I'm just like, these people are not going to throw tomatoes at me. Everything's okay. No one's going to chase me out. I'm not going to get burned at the stake. All the things that we kind of go into our mind and have fear around, it's all okay. It really is all okay. I don't need to be like everyone else. And so I just let myself be in that space of it's okay. I'm going to stand in front of the room. I'm going to shine my light. And if it is, going to affect another person or touch another person, then I'm so happy with that. I've done what I came here to do. And so it's just shifting out of that expectation. Because when we place those expectations on ourselves, which again, I used to do that in the networking, and I used to do that with my family situation. And now I don't. I go in with my family and I'm like, I am the black sheep. I don't care. I'm happy with who I am. I love myself. I'm connected in with my soul's agenda. I didn't come here to fit in. I came here to make an impact. I came here to bring in high levels of wisdom, awareness, and consciousness to help humanity step into its next level of evolution. That's what I came here to do. So as long as I'm doing something that's contributing to that, then I'm happy and I'm fulfilled around that. And it's about stepping out of that. If people are going to judge me for that, that's more about them than it is about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
What do you think or for your own experience and your journey, what was the hardest struggle, and how did you overcome it, as far as really kind of stepping into your authenticity and being okay with being different and not fitting in, or being the black sheep, and really stepping into who you are?
A fear of judgment from others, of them putting that on to me, but it was really about me working through my own shame of growing up. I was different. I grew up in a religion that was considered a cult. It was very different from what other people did. So growing up in elementary school, I would get pulled out of the classroom because I wasn't allowed to be a part of the little Valentine's Day celebrations or Christmas plays. And it was an Old Testament religion that we observed the Sabbath on Friday night. I wasn't able to play sports in high school or middle school. So along the way, again, when I was talking about the anatomy of my life and there being a divine setup, early on, the seeds were all planted. You're not going to be like everyone else. You're going to feel very different. You're going to have shame around that. I grew up in a family that was poor. And so I had friends who had money. So I had shame around that. And so all along the way, the seeds were planted for me to learn how to eventually step into a level of comfort with it's okay being me. So there's a journey of self-worth, right? And so often we have shame that we're carrying with us. So I had to do a lot of work around, why do I feel shame? Why is it so important for me to need to fit in with everybody else, right? Is it because I think they're going to judge me? And then really just bringing a voice to those shadows and really looking at what's the worst that can happen. Like I said at the networking event today, what's the worst that can happen? Someone stands up and says, "Oh my God, you're crazy. Like, you're a crazy person. You really think this is what you're doing? You're crazy, or you're evil," or whatever it is their belief systems are. And then I would just say, "Oh, wow, that's quite a response. I'm interesting that I would have triggered you in that way, but my life is not in danger. There's not a lion or a saber-toothed tiger chasing me." So we have to understand that our brains are wired for fight or flight or freeze, but that's an old evolutionary process. It doesn't serve us anymore, because we can go into that stress and anxiety that you talked about earlier as though there really is a tiger outside the front door, but there's not. So I have to bring self-compassion. I have to just really dialogue with myself and say, it's okay. My higher self is here. Everything's okay. I'm safe. I'm in this place. I'm going to do me. I'm going to stand in my light. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to love my kittens. I'm going to know that I'm supported. I have a wonderful husband. He doesn't think I'm crazy, or he does, but it's all good, you know? So, yeah, it's all perfect, but it's really getting to a place where we can accept ourselves, and it takes a long time to get to that. So we judge ourselves, and then that's mirrored in what we see when we go out into the world. So the less I judge myself, the more compassion I bring, the more I am grounded in the truth of who I am, the less I meet people who judge me. I just don't run into that as much because I'm not doing that to myself. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, I think so. What if you can like think back, because we do have a lot of people in Anonymous No More that are either just kind of stepping into their journey and checking things out, finding their voice and their truth. What would have been something that would have been the most helpful to you in being able to kind of, number one, find your truth and stand in your truth? Something to kind of inspire them or to motivate them just at the first steps of their journey.
Right. Find reliable people in your life. Okay, 2020 is a year of us working with guides. It's a year of us working with coaches and mentors. We're not meant to do this alone. There are people who've already done the journey. So get with them, work with them, surround yourself with people who have a similar vibration to you or where you're wanting to head into. A lot of times we're like, well, I just want my family to get me. I'm sorry, they're not going to get you. It's impossible. You're on a different path of growth that they are, and that's okay. Everyone's path is okay, but you know, they don't have to get us, and we can't make them get us. And so it's helpful to find someone who cares about growth, who's on a similar path in their soul's journey, and befriend that person. Find groups like Anonymous No More. Find people who are moving into the same kind of thing that you're wanting to create for yourself. But if you feel like an island out there and you're just like, wow, I wish the world would get me, it's not going to happen. It doesn't work like that. It's our responsibility, right? We have a lot of Saturn energy in 2020, Saturn in Capricorn. We have to be responsible. We have to do the work. And so just like I do, I go and I find communities. I try different things out. I'm looking for similarity energy. I want to find my tribe. I want to know that I can show up and I can be Rebecca and I can be in my light, be in my gifts, and these people are going to be okay with that, you know? And so we do need that in our life. Actually, the more work we do on ourselves, the more sensitive we become. The more sensitive we become, the more important it is for us to have those sisterhoods, for us to have community. And so it's absolutely important that you have community, and so that you feel like, wow, my husband doesn't understand what I'm doing. My kids don't understand what I'm doing. You know, you got to move outside of that. And sometimes our friends don't. We have to leave those friendships. That's true for me. I had to step out of friendships because they were just like, wait, what are you doing? Like, I don't get what you're doing. Well, you don't need to get what I'm doing because you're not, you know, in charge of my soul's development. I'm working on that. So you do you, I'll do me. And until we can get ourselves to a place collectively where we have less judgment, we need everyone to be just like us, you know, which I think the world would be extremely boring and if everybody was exactly the same, but that's just my personal opinion, then, you know, let's just be okay. We're rebels. We're doing what, you know, what our soul is guiding us to do. And the average human being's not doing be out of place right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah, you mentioned consciousness. And so let's just kind of, maybe we can kind of do a summarized version of speaking about consciousness. Mm-hmm. when I first started doing the interview processes and even putting Anonymous No More out there, I kind of went back into like the 1800s of, when, the first women's convention kind of first took place and they started putting all that together.
Mm-hmm.
And we've actually really have come a long way. But I think as far as, there are still some things in the physical world that need to be done, but where does the consciousness lie when, where are we at consciously as far as women and empowering ourselves to step into our authenticity, in your opinion?
So I was listening to a podcast on my way up the mountain today, and it was, someone just talking about the ancient priestesses and how they would guard over the sacred flame of knowledge, and how and this was in, ancient Greek times, and back then it was all about equanimity and men and women were equal, and it was that way for a long time until the patriarchy started to develop and there was more shame introduced and competition, and men really being fearful of the power of these women who just really had a pure heart, and they really were just watching over the sacred flame. And so that completely got there was more cattiness and competition and all the things that we see that take place today. Women don't always necessarily support each other and lift each other up because of all the energies at play. But I think even though if we were to look at the current political climate, we would all be disgusted and wonder, wow, where are we today? We have had movements like Me Too. We have had more people, I think, stepping into their higher nature, more people being okay with speaking out. I went to an event a couple of weeks ago, and I had a friend talk to me afterwards, and she's like, wow, have you noticed that everybody's becoming a metaphysical coach? Everybody's stepping into that. All these big name coaches are not afraid now to kind of fly their spiritual freak flag and to just share, hey, yeah, I have spiritual development I do on the side. It's not really something I want to keep on the side. I want to bring that more into the work that I do, because if we're going to coach a person, shouldn't we coach them on mind, body, spirit? Why would we just focus on one aspect of that? That's not, we're whole beings. Let's look at the totality of a person. We all have a soul. That needs to be a part of what we're coaching. And she and I just talked about that. So I do think we're becoming more empowered. I do think that we're able to step into that more and more. Now it's more of an individual job. Like I was saying earlier, where individually do you hold back for fear of judgment or fear of other people's religious beliefs, or all the things that we come into contact with out in the world, people not knowing what we do, when we start talking about intuitive stuff or Reiki or some of the things that people do, you're going to have a cross segment who's like, I know nothing about that. But that's okay, as long as they bring an open mind. We're all in this together. We're all going through the human experience, and we're all spiritual beings doing that. So I think we're becoming more empowered, and that's exciting. That's really exciting. I can't speak to other countries because there's still places in the world, sadly, where women don't have rights and they aren't able to live a life of freedom. But in this country, we do. And so part of our mandate spiritually is to not take that for granted. And we do. Where do we take for granted how much freedom we have, right? I can do whatever I want to do in my life. And so there should be nothing that's holding me back, especially my own limiting judgments and beliefs. Like, there should be nothing holding me back. Very powerful people have said it's Western women who are going to step up and they're going to take us into the next level of evolution. So that's you and me. It's our time to step into leadership positions and do this work, and to not have fear around that. I mean, we're the ones, we chose this time period to be here, to be on the forefront, to be the pioneers, and to step into the next level of evolution. So it's on us to rise up and to do that. And I think all of us feel the call to do that. I know for me, that call's been really loud this year. It's like, okay, enough with the excuses. It's time to step up. It's time to put yourself out there. It's time to speak on the things that are important. It's time to, you know, really move the needle on that and stop hiding out, because it's just too easy to hide out. It's too easy for us to be comfortable and have our beautiful homes and our pets and, hey, I'm going to play with kitties all day. Well, that's great, but you know, that's not going to move the needle for humanity. So it's really time for us to do the things that we came here to do. And I'm excited about that. I think this is going to be a great year for all of us.
Yes. And where do you see, I know as far as your own personal relationship, you have a uniqueness because you have an open-minded husband for the most part. Where do you see males coming in? Are they taking, is it impacting the male human species with the movements that are happening, that the women are a part of, the women's movements? Is it affecting them in a way that you think is helping to boost their part of the consciousness, so that we're all kind of getting closer and closer to uniting?
Yes, is the short answer. However, polarity is a fundamental universal law of the reality that we all find ourselves in. So there's always going to be the polarity, and there's always going to be the people who don't get it, who choose not to get it, and we have to honor their free will. So again, everybody's on their own journey. I also work with men. I love working with men. Men are some of my favorite clients. And I have clients who had no knowledge of spiritual development, Akashic records, and to my utter surprise, said they wanted to work with me, come very open, and have been tremendously inspiring to me to be on that journey. I have a client out in California, and he's like, Rebecca, you're never going to guess what I did. I went and saw a Reiki practitioner to have a healing session. And I'm like, wow. And that's huge for him. This is a project manager, works in a software development kind of environment, you know, knew nothing about this kind of work. And so he's opening up, he's reading spiritual books, he's trying stuff out. And I think that's amazing. You know, I have other clients who just eagerly devour the same types of things that we do in terms of spiritual development. I mean, they're rocking it out. These are people, I did a reading with a 16-year-old male who is awesome, who came here to do great things. He was very excited for that. He said it was one of the best experiences that he's had. So yes, I don't think it's a gender thing. Because I, for whatever reason, attract a lot of males who do the work and who are younger, and they're awesome. Now, again, we have polarity. So there are relationships that some of us have, and I know what that's like, because Joel hasn't always been open, bless him. And, you know, he got kind of drug a little bit, kicking and screaming, but I'm kidding. I did the work on me. And it's like, look, you do what you're going to do. I'm going to choose a different path. I'm going to do the work on myself. And I'm going to let that be an example of how a person can transform. Right. And so if how you're doing it's not working out for you, and yet you see your partner is thriving, you might want to stop and look at what is it that they're doing, and maybe I could just be a little bit more open to that, right? And so guys will say to me sometimes, oh, I'm just so concrete, I'm so rational, and It makes me laugh. It's like I used to work in the construction industry. There's two kinds of concrete that is cracked or concrete that will crack. So, that's just not a good strategy for how you're going to live your life. And so I'm also very logical. I can be extremely rational. That's one of the gifts I have, is being pretty whole-brained and being able to dialogue with people who are very left-brained. One of my favorite quotes is from Einstein. The intuitive mind is the sacred gift. The rational mind is its faithful servant. But we've created a society which honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So, we're not just our left brain. That's ignoring the whole other hemisphere of who we are. So it's about using gentle and creative ways to open up the men in our life, be it our children or our spouses, and just dropping little pearls to them. But, we don't have to flood them with, super high level spiritual development and expect that they're going to jump in. That would be like a grad student going into third grader class and, teaching them about particle acceleration. They're not going to get it. Okay. So it's the same for us. We have to be creative about that. And that can be challenging for people sometimes, because they just want their person to get them. And I get that, but that's why we build community, because you're not going to have all the people in your life who are close to you get you at the level that you're craving that. And that's a natural thing to crave. So hopefully that answered it.
It did. I think it's helpful for everybody to see that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. You choose your path. And if it's going to be lasting, and if you're going to connect and help evolve them, they're going to come along for the ride anyway. I know for me and mine, although it was kind of a struggle at the beginning, I changed a lot of different things, and they saw the changing. And so they're like, well, I'm going to kind of get on board with certain things. So they jumped on board with certain things, and, we kind of transformed together, but different.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's important for people to see that you still have choices, no matter what another person's belief system is or what they're thinking. You still have the choice to do you. Yeah, I think that's
absolutely. And it's stepping out, Angela. Sometimes women, I know we would never do this. We like to assume manager role in other people's personal development. And we're very critical and forceful of that. And it's like, well, if you just knew what I knew, you would do it my way. And that is never an effective strategy, because none of us want to be told what to do. And none of us want a person on their high horse telling us that they have the holy grail for how to live life a certain way, if only we would do what, they told us to. I would be offended if someone, brought that attitude to me. And so we have to be sensitive about that, because we can bring that to the people in our lives a lot, especially when we first start the journey of, oh my God, I'm awakening and I'm stepping into this whole world and it's so magical and I want other people to be a part of it. And why won't they just do what I tell them to do? And there's a level of judgment and arrogance that can come along with that. And I know I've done that many times. And so I don't try to bring that energy to Joel now, because it's like, no, he's going to do what he's going to do. If he wants to be a part of it, he'll be a part of it. If he wants to do spiritual retreats with me, he'll do spiritual retreats with me. If he doesn't, he won't. And it's all good. Again, stepping out of that expectation. It'd be beautiful if we could get to a place where we don't have expectation, we don't have judgment. We literally just honor another person for their divine self-expression and hope that they can honor us for ours, right? Without all the human stuff that we bring that creates these icky patterns that we have with people, where we just are constantly trying to do power plays with each other. It's just not healthy. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's what most of our relationships are. But that's
yeah. Is that because of the society that we live in? Because we're always taught to go do and succeed at everything we do. It's kind of like that competitive side to it.
So, yeah, so I just did an advanced Akashic record training around this, and there's two different ways that we can access energy for fueling our lives. There is an energy that comes when we're aligned with the truth of who we are, right? And we're just sourcing our soul's own creative self-expression. And when we do that, like for me, I'm divine love and healing and divine self-expression. If I live my life in alignment with that, I'm going to have a lot of creative expression, abundance, empowerment. The second source of energy that we access are these incongruent patterns, these power plays with other people in our life, our families, our relationships, our friends. It can be an individual, it can be a role we play in society, it can be groups of people. So anytime we are changing how we show up because of the influence of another person, we're creating these incongruent patterns. So I do business a certain way because of the influence of my parents. They taught me how to do service. They taught me how to, be a person who gives. Unfortunately, they've kind of lived their lives in this servitude role of not having a strong foundation of self. And so I'm having to examine, where am I being of service to people, but creating these incongruent patterns? Because if we're serving something, we're allowing that person to consume us. Well, that's not aligned with our divine self-expression, right? But we show up this way with needing validation from others, judging others, obligation, sacrifice, duty. There's a million different energies. And those are not aligned with our soul's divine self-expression. Because ideally, you wouldn't bring judgment and expectation to others. So anytime we want something from someone or for someone, right? If we are like, oh, you can't do this on your own, you're my child, let me help you. I want happiness for you in the future. I want all you as part of an overlay. Okay, those are these incongruent patterns. Because ideally, your child or your spouse, they have their own journey. They have their own curriculum. And again, we're not the manager of that. We can just witness them in their self-expression. And of course, be loving and kind and all of those things and compassionate. But we tend to bring a little bit more ego into it. It's like, well, I need you to do this, because it really is tied back to how I look. If you don't do well in life and you're not successful and you're not all these things I'm going to bring and want you to be and embody so that I look better. Well, that's not aligned. That speaks more about our own stuff. So yeah, so there's that's a whole nother deep dive. But it's really interesting to start to look at that, because then you start to examine, what roles am I playing in society? And am I getting a kickback from that? Do I get a kickback egoically from being a healer, from, being a mother, from being a good sister? And anytime we have that word good in there, if I'm a good wife, I would do this. If I'm a good, daughter, I would do this. Then we're creating those patterns. So it's interesting to just examine that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, talking with you, it just opens my mind up to like a million questions. And I've always been that way. We would stand and talk for hours on end. But so I guess I'm just going to kind of let you have some final thoughts and share anything that you would like to share before we kind of close it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the year to really look at your life, what you put your sacred time and essence into, and really look at, is it something you really want to be doing? is it aligned with the agenda of your higher self? Is it really moving you into the next stage of your evolution? And if it's not, why are you spending your sacred time on it? We all kind of tend to think, oh, I'm going to live forever. And we don't really get the sanctification of life. We don't really get the sacredness of how we are here in this beautiful physical vessel and moving through space on this rock surrounded by billions of other people who are doing innovative, creative, fun, scary, all kinds of millions of different things that they're doing. And we're getting to watch all of that. We're getting to be inspired by all of that, or you know, being shown an example of how we don't want to live our lives. It's all of it. But really looking at, what do we want to create for ourselves? What do we want to create for our legacy? And how can we step into really being seen and allowing that light to come forward, and not being anonymous, and really loving ourselves and just honoring the amazing, beautiful piece of art that each of us is, you know, and just really being with that, and taking the time to get how precious each of us is, and to look and, you know, honor that in another person. I mean, that's what namaste is. It's all about the light in me honors, you know, the light and the divine in you, and just really bringing that and threading that into every day. How do I show up? How do I love? You know, how do I look at humanity, and how can I bring more of that love and compassion and kindness into to how I live, and how do I embody that? So, you know, this year is really asking us to explore that at a deeper level. So just taking some time to be with that, and looking at how we can really weave that into how we engineer our days, and how we choose to spend the sacred time that we have. So that's what I would leave everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining in and talking and speaking with me about, you know, your own experiences and your thoughts and your opinions when it comes to authenticity and consciousness. You sometimes like totally blow me away with the knowledge and the passion that you speak with. So I really thank you very much for
Oh, well,
allowing
thank you
us
for
to tap into this.
creating this space. You're awesome. And yeah, this would be an example of one of the things I'm talking about, right? Community is important to you. So you're not just sitting at home thinking, oh, it'd be awesome if I had a community. You're taking action on that. You're creating a Facebook space. You're building tribe. And hopefully in the future, you have live gatherings where we get to build tribe and connection and community, you know, face to face. And so there's things that you're doing. You're taking action on that. And that's the only thing that's going to move us forward, is when we show up and we do the work. So I applaud you. I'm super proud of you. You're awesome. And I just look for this to be an amazing year for you and for the rest of us. And it is about showing up. So thank you for inviting me to talk today. It's been awesome connecting with you.
Yes, thank you. So we're gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna stop the recording, so just a minute. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining in and listening, and hopefully you have gotten some wonderful information that's going to help you kind of open up and step into your own authenticity and become anonymous no more. So thank you for joining in. And again, once more, thank you, Rebecca, for joining me today.